Hello, today I'm going to be showing you how to make these crochet pumpkins. They're super easy to make and perfect to use as autumn decor. You can also turn them into jack-o'-lanterns for Halloween. The materials you're going to need for this are orange plush yarn. Of course, you can use any color. You can also use any type, but I would recommend something bulky. I'm going to be using this multicolor yarn because I already have a couple that are orange. You're also going to need a green yarn, or you can use brown as well. And you don't have to use the same type either. You can use this thinner yarn like I've used here. You're also going to need a crochet hook. I'm using a 7mm. You're going to need a yarn needle. They're also known as darning needles or wool needles. You'll need a stitch marker and you'll need some stuffing. I went ahead and wound my yarn into a ball, just find it easier to use and it won't roll around the table while I'm filming. So the first thing we are going to do is create a slip knot. You will need to be able to make this regardless of if you're making a magic ring or a chain. So first step is to wrap the yarn around your hands as I've done. And then you are going to take this tail side and you are going to place it on top of your middle finger. So just putting it where you're holding the yarn like this, make an X, and then you're going to hold it down with your thumb. You now have this loop and you're going to grab your crochet hook, and just to make it easier, this is the crochet hook facing up and this is the crochet hook facing down. You're going to place the hook in the loop and then you are going to turn it down and grab onto the yarn. As you're pulling it through the loop, you want to twist the hook upwards like that and then yarn over, pull through, and you'll know if you did it correctly because you'll be able to move the yarn in and out. You can make the loop bigger and smaller. Now that we have made the slip knot, we can start making the magic ring. Now you want this tail to be on the left side and you want it to be above this loop that we have. You're going to insert your hook and make sure it is under the tail and through the loop. And we are going to yarn over, pull it through. Now you have 2 loops on your hook, and then you want to yarn over and pull through, and that is the first stitch, and it is basically just a single crochet. And if you're new to this, you might also want to mark it with a stitch marker, that way you know where the first stitch is. And just remember, the slip knot doesn't count as a stitch. For this magic ring, we are doing 8 single crochets into the ring. You are going to put your hook back through the big loop and make sure it's underneath the tail, and then you're going to yarn over and pull it through, and you have the 2 loops on your hook again, yarn over, pull through, and that is your second single crochet. I'll show it one more time. So through loop and underneath the tail, yarn over, pull it through. With the 2 loops on your hook, you are then going to yarn over, pull through, and that is your third stitch. And now we are going to do that 8 more times, or 5 more times, for a total of 8. So we are making a 8 single crochet magic ring, and you just want to do the remaining 5 single crochets. Okay, so that is our 8 single crochets into the magic ring. My tail got a little bit too small, so just make sure not to lose the tail, or else you won't be able to close the magic ring properly. You're just going to gently pull it. Sometimes it's also helpful to hold your ring between your thumb like I'm doing. It just helps keep it flatter and not curl up too much. And this is our magic ring. Now we can begin round 2, and we are going to be doing 8 increases. You can go ahead and take out the stitch marker. Just remember which stitch it's in. You can see here it's the light pink one. For the increase, we are just doing 2 single crochets into 1 stitch. You can go ahead and tighten up your working loop. Starting with the first stitch, you just want to make sure you're putting your hook under both sides of the stitch. So it's a bit hard to tell with this yarn, but you can see here that there are 2 loops, so you can see it a little bit better with the stitch next to it. As you can see here, the little V and the 2 loops. Then you're going to go ahead and do a single crochet. So pull the yarn through, you have 2 loops on your hook, and then yarn over and pull through both loops. And that is your first stitch of the round. Go ahead and put your stitch marker in, and then we are going to finish doing the increase, which means 1 more single crochet into the same stitch we just worked into. So it's a bit hard to tell, but you can see here it's still the light pink stitch. So we're just going to go back through, pull the yarn through, and then with the 2 loops on your hook, you're going to yarn over, pull through, and that is your increase finish. So you now have 2 stitches which make up your increase. So we're just going to do that all the way around. We're doing 1 increase into each of the stitches from the previous rounds. So one more time through the stitch, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over, pull through again, and then back into the same stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, and that is your second increase done, and you now have 4 stitches total. You can now finish round 2. So we've done 2 of the increases already, which means you have 6 left. So in total we would have done 8 increases for a total of 16 stitches. This is what it looks like at the end of round 2. You should have 16 stitches all the way around. For round 3, we are going to be doing a single crochet and an increase. So you'll have a single crochet and increase, single crochet and an increase, and then you'll continue doing that all the way around. You can go ahead and take out the stitch marker. And so first off, we are going to do the single crochet. So 1 single crochet, just like we've been doing. And then you want to put your stitch marker back in. And then we are going to do an increase. So that's just 2 single crochet into 1 stitch. So our first single crochet, second into the same stitch, making up our increase. And that is the set of stitches we are going to be doing. Let's do it together one more time. So 1 single crochet, and then 1 increase. You should have a total of 6 stitches now, and you can continue doing this all the way around. So you should have a total of 24 stitches by the end of round 3. This is the end of round 3. So for round 4, we're doing something pretty similar. We're just going to be doing 2 single crochets and an increase. We're doing those 8 times for a total of 32. Take out the stitch marker and we can begin round 4. We're just going to do a single crochet into this first stitch. So through the loops, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over, pull through, and put your stitch marker back in. And we're going to do another single crochet, and now we are going to do the increase. So just 2 single crochets into the same stitch, and that is the first set done, so you have 4 stitches. We'll continue doing this until we get back to the stitch marker. So once again, a single crochet, another single crochet, and then an increase. Okay, that is round 4 finished, and that is it for the increases. For the next couple of rounds, we're just going to be doing single crochet. For rounds 5 through 12, we're just going to be doing 32 single crochets, and also just make sure you did have 32 single crochet at the end of round 4. Starting off round 5, single crochet, and remember to put your stitch marker back in. And then I'm just going to do single crochet until I get back to the stitch marker, and just make sure you are doing 32 for each round. Alright, here we are at the end of round 12, and it is pouring rain, so I don't know if you can hear that, but if you can, please just ignore. And we're going to start doing decreases. For round 13, we are going to do 2 single crochets and a decrease, so I'm just going to do those quickly. Make sure to put your stitch marker back in. One more single crochet and then the decrease. So I'm just going to do a regular decrease. For a decrease, we work into 2 stitches. We're going to work into these next 2 stitches right here, this dark orange and light orange one. So you're going to put your hook through that first stitch, and then you're going to yarn over and pull through just like that, and then you're going to go into the next stitch. So through the stitch, yarn over, pull through, and you will have 3 loops on your hook, and then you're going to yarn over, pull through all 3 loops, and that is your decrease. So I'm going to do 2 more single crochet. And now for another decrease, so working to these 2 stitches. Through the first stitch, yarn over, pull through, so you have 2 loops on your hook, and then through the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, you have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. 2 more single crochet, and we'll do 1 more decrease together. So working into these next 2 stitches, we're going to put the hook through, then we're going to yarn over, pull through, and then into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over, pull through all 3 of your loops. And we're just going to keep doing that till we get back to the stitch marker. So you'll have a total of 24 stitches at the end of this round. So starting round 14, we're just going to be doing a single crochet and a decrease 8 times for a total of 16. we're doing 1 single crochet, add your stitch marker back in, and then the decrease, which is just working into the 2 stitches like we did in the last round, with 3 loops on your hook, pulling through all 3. And once again, a single crochet, and then a decrease, so working through 2 stitches with the 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3, and we're just going to continue this until we have 16 stitches total. This is what it looks like at the end of round 14. Looks a bit like a marshmallow, and we are going to start stuffing it now. You want to stuff it most of the way, but we will add a little bit more before we close it. Here it is mostly stuffed, and at the end of round 14. Now, I do feel like this hole is a little bit large, so I'm going to be doing one more in between round. If you think yours is small enough, then you can go ahead and skip to round 15. I am going to be doing round 14.1, which is a single crochet, a decrease, doing those 5 times, and then 1 single crochet at the end for a total of 11. Okay, that's looking a lot better. Now, one of the reasons you might want to do this extra round is because if your hole is too big, it will cause smaller holes once you close it up at the end, if that makes sense. For the final round, depending on which round you previously did, your round 15 might be different. So if you did rounds 14.1, for round 15, you're going to do 5 decreases and a single crochet for a total of 6. If you only did round 14, you're just going to do 8 decreases for a total of 8 stitches. Okay, so now we are finished the last round and we can sew this shut. But before we do that, add any more stuffing that you want to add. I like to leave it a little bit more squishy. I just think it helps give the pumpkin sections more definition. And before we cut the yarn, you want to make sure you leave a really long tail. So we're basically going to be wrapping the tail around it like this to make the pumpkin sections. I don't really have an exact length to cut it because it will kind of depend on the type of yarn you use and how tight you make each section, but I would say leaving a little extra is better than not leaving enough. Once you've cut your yarn, you can pull out the tail. So you just want to pull on this loop until you get to the end. And we are going to thread the yarn onto the yarn needle, and now we can start sewing. Alright, before we get started, you want to make sure that you are sewing in the same direction you were crocheting in. So if you go the opposite way, you will get this little bump. So that's how you'll know if you're not going the right way. So you're basically sewing the same direction you would have continued crocheting in. You can insert your needle through the first stitch, just like that. And don't pull it tight all the way just yet. And then we are going to work from the inside. And then you're going to go through the outside. I don't know if this is making sense, but hopefully the visual's helping. And then you're basically just alternating going from the inside to the outside, and you just want to do this in all of the stitches. Once you go through all 8 or 6 of your stitches, you can then pull it closed. And now we can move on to making the sections of the pumpkin. I'm going to try to explain this as best as I can. So what you want to do is insert the needle into the bottom, and you want to push it through all the way to the top into the center of the magic ring that we made. So once you do that, you can pull it out through the top, and then this is where we're going to shape it. So you're going to pull the tail tight and put it back into where we just came out of from the bottom. So it doesn't matter as much, but it's best if you can try to get it into a similar place each time, and then back up through the center hole, and then you can pull it tightly. Just make sure it's in the position you want it to be in. And once you come out through the top again, you can start pulling it tight. I also find it helps to pull it tight from the top bit, just like I'm doing, and then you can pull it through more just to get it a little bit tighter. And you can decide how tight you want it to be and how like prominent you want each section. And then you can see here we're sort of making that first section. So putting it in again, same thing, coming out from the top. And you can also decide how wide you want the section to be. I think I want to do about 5 or 6 sections. So once you like where it's positioned, then you can pull it tight. So that is the first section of the pumpkin finished. And you're just going to continue that until you have the number of sections that you want. So going in through the bottom, coming out through the top, and you don't have to worry a lot about exactly where it's coming out because we're going to sew the stem over the top, but it'll just help with your tension a little bit. Okay, I am starting to realize I do not have enough of a tail to finish my sections. So I guess I'll just keep going and hope for the best. I only have a few more sections left. Yep, I do not have enough yarn to finish this, unfortunately. So I'm going to fix this section a little bit too. I wanted to have 6, and I think what I'm just gonna do is tie a knot onto this end and just see if I can hopefully hide it. So I just ended up doing a double knot, which is really not ideal. And of course, while I'm filming is when I cut the tail too short. Luckily, this lines up perfectly, and I think I can just push the knot inside. But the whole time I was making these orange ones, I was cutting a tail way too long, and then for some reason, I decided I should make it a lot shorter for this video, and yeah, so don't do that. I'm only going to be displaying this, so I'm pretty sure the knot should be good enough and it'll keep it together, but just make sure your tail's long enough, really. If you're going to make a lot of these, or even like more than a few, and you're going to use the same yarn, I would just recommend trying to measure the tail to kind of see how long it should be. And also, if you want to have more sections, you're going to need a longer tail. So I was able to just push the knot in with the back of my yarn needle. And so now what we're going to do is just weave in this tail a little bit. So you can just go into somewhere nearby. I'm just going to match it to this orange. And you can just come out somewhere at the bottom. You might notice a tiny little bit of stuffing coming out from it. It's just from when we were adding the sections in and pulling the yarn through. And I don't think there's really a good way to prevent this when you're pulling the yarn through so many times, so you can just pull it out. And I'm just going to weave this in a little bit more. So you just push it in and then pull it out wherever, and then you can just stuff it back in with the end of your needle. Here is the finished pumpkin, and now all we have to do is make the stem. So I was originally planning to use this green, but I don't think it really matches that well with this yarn, so I think I'm going to pick a different color. I feel like this white would be kind of cute with it, but I'm still not 100% sure. So I kind of settled on this orange color, and it kind of has the same orange in the pumpkin, so I feel like it kind of does go together. It into a cake, I just find it a bit easier to use this way, and now we can get started on the stem. We are gonna start off with a magic ring, so wrap the yarn around your fingers and make a slip knot. I'll show it again quickly in case you forgot. So I'm still using a 7mm hook. Place the hook through, turn it downwards, pull the yarn through the loop and twist up, and then you can yarn over and pull through, and you'll know it's correct because you can make the working loop bigger and smaller. Now we're going to make the magic ring, and just make sure your tail is up on the left side, and you're going to place your hook through the loop and underneath that little tail, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, and that is your first single crochet. And we're just going to do 5 more, so we want 6 in total. Once you've done 6, you can pull it tight, so just pull on the tail. Let me see if I can show it better, and just slowly pull it through like that. And now we can work on round 2. Round 2 is just 6 single crochets, just like we've been doing. So you can work into that first stitch, do a single crochet, and remember to add the stitch marker, and then just do a single crochet until you get back to the stitch marker and you have 6 stitches. This is the end of round 2, and I'm going to do one more round, but if you're happy with this height, you can just leave it here. In round 3, I'm just doing 6 more single crochets. Here is the finished stem, and all we have to do now is sew it on. It's going to go right here in the middle, and I didn't stuff it, but you can stuff it if you want to. You can cut the yarn, just make sure you leave a tail for sewing. Pull out the loop, and now we can start sewing. And also when you're sewing this, just make sure you're sewing in the same direction, or you can finish it off a little bit more. So you can just add in, I just like to sew through one more stitch. So just don't go the opposite way or you're gonna get that bump. I just put it through the next stitch and just pull it through. There is a proper way to do this if you want it to look like another stitch, but it's not necessary since we're sewing it down. And you also want to decide which side you want to sew the stem onto. I'm just going to sew it onto the top, but technically you can put it on either side. Also, I just want to say this is not the place to learn how to sew because I don't really know how to sew. I don't really know what I'm doing. I've definitely improved since I started crocheting, but I know it's still not the best at sewing. So I just inserted the needle through just any stitch kind of in the place that I wanted, and then just pull it all the way through. Make sure it's positioned how you like it, and then you can just sew it down. I'm not really good at explaining how to sew either, so hopefully it's sort of self-explanatory. I would recommend potentially getting some metal yarn needles. Sometimes when you're working with this thicker yarn, I just find it hard to get it through. Like I'm struggling to sew this down. Just make sure as you're sewing that it's staying in the place you want it to be. Mine ended up a tiny bit wonky, but you know, I guess that's okay because pumpkins do look different. So I just keep going around sewing. I'm so sorry. I just really I don't know how to explain how to sew. So there you have it. Just make sure it is secured down before you weave in the end, and you basically just pop it in and then come out somewhere and then just push in the tail with the back of the needle. Here it is, our finished pumpkin. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. You can also play around making different sizes and things. It is really just a spear and then shaping, and in my opinion, in terms of amigurumi and plushies, spear is pretty much the easiest thing you can make. So the possibilities are pretty much endless, and if you want to add a Halloween touch, you can get some felt and you can turn it into a jack-o'-lantern like this one. I realized the eyes are slightly uneven and I just used fabric glue to glue it down. You could use hot glue as well. And I just used this black felt and you can see the offcuts right there. So yeah, it's just basically two triangles and then a half circle, and then you cut out the teeth. If there is something else you want a tutorial of, please let me know. I do have a lot of ideas. Made it this far, let me know what your favorite candy is and if you're excited for Halloween, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!